So, who's lamenting the ending of their favorite television shows?
Yeah, Breaking Bad is over. So is Dexter.
Yeah, I'm sad Dexter's dead.
See, I really don't remember television shows ever getting this kind of, mass following. I mean, sure, a lot of old television shows had fans, but they never had, rabid fans like this, people who follow the television shows on social media. I mean, hell, there's even an April 2013 issue of Wired magazine that states that thanks to social media and the changing trends in viewership and the internet, we're actually living in the platinum age of television, and television has never been better.
Now, I know we discussed this before, but I find it really interesting when people say we live in a certain age, like a platinum or golden, because it's so subjective as a value.
Yeah. I mean, people will say, Leave It to Beaver or other shows from that era where, the golden age of television where you can't get any better. But based on whose perspective? Based against what exactly?
Well, they're actually just, gauging these things not by, value. They're gauging them by, an anniversary, the golden anniversary, the silver anniversary, the platinum anniversary.
But of course, what's interesting is that unlike history, which always follows a consecutive order of sorts, the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, so it always kind of progresses forward.
Yes.
However, when we discuss mediums like movies, video games, or palette and comic books, it's sort of the other way around. Hey, here's the golden age of comic books. Okay, what's so special about the golden age of comic books? Well, Superman lifted the car and threw it at someone. Oh, and Wonder Woman made a timely passing racist remark. Yeah, so in regards to the Wired magazine article, I think the way they branded it is more applicable.
Yeah, more valid.
Because they're actually gauging the contemporary state of television.
I mean, I would very quickly just add, I don't know if I've said this before on the show, but I still stand by what was once said by a friend of Jeremy Clarkson's. He said that, there never was a golden age. What happened was that we had all this stuff that was made back in the day, and you can count 10 good things in a decade. Whereas now what's happened is that because we are able to create more, we are able to produce more good content than we have ever had in our lifetime. However, as a result, consummately, there is a fuck of a lot more dross because we are able to create as much bad as we are good. So
yeah.
It sort of equals out that way.
But here's the thing is, you guys are mentioning that you're kind of gauging the show quality as being the decisive force of platinum age television. And while I do agree that better shows are getting better and worse shows are obviously getting worse, honey boo boo. But the point of the Wired article is to look at why these shows are taking off. What's driving this fanaticism? What helped The Walking Dead get 12 million viewers in its mid-season finale? I mean, they're really exploring the social, technological aspects of what's going on.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. While we could make the argument that, yes, there is a fan following that is massive for great shows such as Breaking Bad and, Game of Thrones, etc., the problem is you could also say the same for The Big Bang Theory. And that's when you kind of have to sort of step back and go, now wait a minute, there's a bit of a, if we're really looking at it objectively, you could make an argument for the fact that social media, like Facebook, Twitter, etc., has a lot in building an audience for any show, regardless of its quality.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, it's just like with an example from the gaming industry, how, you have The Last of Us, being so well received, but then you also have Call of Duty so well received. So, I mean, it really is a relative point of discussion here. How do these things get so many fans, on the critical and the general public sides of things?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say it's because they're not good shows because, again, it's completely subjective as to what you enjoy, what you don't. And there are some things which I think you can say with a certain degree of nuance that, yes, it is a much better show than we've had previously or, it's just a very good show. But it's really tough because, you try to equate success with quality and that doesn't always add up because, again, as I've said, there are so many bad shows.
Right. It's my belief that if Firefly was out in this day and age, it would not have been canceled because, according to Wired magazine and the research that they've done, that we have bogarted, they basically make a lot of points that Fox was always going off the Nielsen ratings system, which they found is inaccurate, especially in this day and age where the Nielsen ratings don't even count Hulu, Netflix, Apple TV.
Or hell, even DVR recordings.
Exactly, DVR recordings, which could boost a show's viewership up by 130%.
And for those of you at home really quickly who don't know what the Nielsen is, basically Nielsen ratings use a technique called statistics sampling to rate the shows. So they create a sample audience and then counts how many in that audience view each program. So essentially what they do...
They pull stats out of their ass.
Yeah, that's what they do. They pull statistics, like, because they don't really get the full sample of people. Instead, they get, like, a small sample that may actually be inaccurate as to, like, how many people are actually watching the show.
I mean, tell me about it. They're talking about 5,000 people they select in a sample, and how big is America's television viewing audience? I mean, honestly, it's barely anything.
Exactly.
But this is really how the movie industry in particular uses that as its main system of what movies get made and what movies don't get made. I think it's interesting that with television, there's so much more that's being created, and then they're assessing it afterwards. They'll give it a season, they'll see how it goes. With movies, because I think the risk is a lot higher because of the money involved, they're really scared to let it go past the sampling. I mean, I remember I told you guys about how when the one of the heads of Aardman came to talk to us, he told us that when DreamWorks owned them, they would put them up in Texas in a mall, and they get families to come in and watch the films and grade it. And he said it, his own words, not mine. He said it's absolute bollocks.
Well, yeah, it's Texas. I'm joking.
Yeah.
I'm joking, but it kind of goes back to that thought that different regions will have different tastes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly.
It's the same reason why focus groups don't really work.
Right.
Yeah.
That also brings up a point. Like, you mentioned Firefly earlier, like, that could also apply to different time periods having different tastes. Like, right now we're in a nerd revolution, where if Firefly actually aired today, then it actually would not have been canceled so quickly. It would have actually probably caught fire very quickly, in that respect.
Perhaps, but I wonder if that's because of Joss Whedon after the Avengers. Because, after that movie happened, he could pretty much do anything he wanted to, and then did.
I really don't think that that's necessarily the point, because Firefly had quite a cult following.
Yes.
Don't forget, Buffy the Vampire Slayer went on for ages, and that came out before.
Yeah, so Whedon had a
following.
The
problem is that the network was not able to adequately gauge that following.
Yes, that's what I was trying to put in edgewise, was the fact that they can't gauge an accurate following from the Nielsen ratings, and what they're doing these days is using Twitter. As much as I fucking hate Twitter, Twitter is one of the driving forces in getting an accurate assessment of the viewership.
#CCS.
But Twitter's Bluefin Labs is actually an analytics company that combs all of the hashtags and the trending content and provides that data to networks. So networks have a vastly more accurate assessment of what people are watching, what people are buzzing about, and you could even say they can kind of tell how many people are actually watching the show in lieu of piracy. Because if 2 million people are twittering about the latest episode of Game of Thrones and only 1 million people were actually watching the network broadcast, then there's obviously 1 million people that are fucking either echoing what someone else is saying or they've watched it on the internet.
Yeah, so I think the margin of error is a lot smaller with the Twitter system.
The Big Brother is watching you, after all. Yeah.
It's Big Brother plus advertisers. I mean, if you were a company, this is information you would want. You would want to know whether or not Arrested Development is worth spending $3 million an episode on.
Right. So basically, be aware of what you post on Facebook, kids.
And Twitter.
Yeah, because somebody is listening, and they are using it in order to put out more shit. No, that's insane.
Yes, even if you complain about, Frozen...
Disney will know.
Yeah, Disney.
Oh God.
Disney will know, and just based on your rants, they'll bring up a sequel to Frozen just because you talked about it.
Kenny, don't use his real name. Don't use his real name. We've already determined that William is in England. He's in an art school, and his name is William, and that means that Disney's already narrowed him down for a job that they'll never give him.
Oh no.
They'll be like William's on our blacklist.
Mickey Mouse and a bunch of 1930s factory workers are gonna show up at his doorstep with baseball bats.
Guys. You remember Iron Man 3, right? Where Tony Stark gives the Mandarin his home address?
Yeah.
Apache helicopters with big Disney ears.
Helicopters just say, "You're gonna die, huh?" Shoot the missile.
When we swing on your brother.